Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. You know you are welcome anytime. Hey, everybody. Any time of day. Welcome to the 17th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. We're here to grow in our journey together. I'm Milan Starcic, and my co-hosts today are Andrew Norman, Brandi, and Colter. We're four souls on the path of recovery with a desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Today's topic is acceptance. I'd like to start with you, Brandi. What does acceptance mean to you, and how did your idea about acceptance evolve as you worked the steps in meaning and importance?
Acceptance to me is, it took me a little bit to get acceptance, like not when not even the first time I said that I was an addict out loud. It took quite a while for me to really accept the whole thing, the whole spiel of having to do this forever. This is something that I can't just quit for a while and do something like a normal person does. So when I was into probably after I got home from treatment and I had started doing the steps and started going to meetings and like doing everything that was suggested to me, I just learned more. I realized that if I want to move any further in my recovery and I don't want to have reservations, like I need to not just say I accept this. I need to really do it. And definitely the steps were a huge part of it, especially when I got to fourth and fifth, yeah, but when I got to sixth and seventh, and just to see my character defects that go along with it, and realize that when I started to accept it, it was more or less I was just going forward and owning it in a little bit too. Like I like to say I don't have to go to a meeting. I get to go to a meeting, and if I have to, I get to go to meetings and do these steps, and it sounds like work, but really I love this stuff. I love recovery. If I don't ever want to use again, like this is my medicine. This is what I get to do. And when I started accepting, that don't future trip, start accepting it for today, it made a big difference in my recovery. And I think that's when I could turn around and confidently tell somebody my story. Like I could say it from the beginning, but like confidently say it to someone else, but feeling like I'm going to make it tomorrow too. And so it's a big part, and it's I don't. I mean, I guess it could go hand in hand with surrender, but because surrender is like a daily thing, acceptance is something that I've kind of like stamped on my recovery and who I am, and it doesn't. It's not so bad, and like not like accept that I may have like lost a job or something like that. Like I'm accepting this with all of my heart and all of my soul because I can't. This is who I am, and so I'm just going to do what I can do with it. So I don't know if that really answered your question, but it felt good.
I think it definitely let us know where you're at with acceptance, which was
Yeah.
basically where I was trying to start off. Just do a check in with everybody about where their acceptance is at. And what about you, Mr. Coulter? What does acceptance mean to you,
Well,
and how did your idea about acceptance evolve as you worked the steps in meaning and importance?
so I mean, really, like for me, especially as it applies to me right now today, like I think acceptance is ultimately about relinquishing control, right? Like um accepting life, people, situations as they are and not as I want them to be, right? So like generally when something like affects me like emotionally or I get really upset, a lot of times it comes down to this issue. Like I am not okay with life being life the way that it is. It's because I wanted it to go a certain way. Like I wanted this person to feel a certain way, whatever, right? Like, and often when that doesn't pan out, like I have a very bad reaction to that, right? And I think the biggest part of recovery with acceptance is learning like the art of accepting things as they are and not as I want them to be, and then being okay with it. You know what I mean? And I've noticed it's intrinsic, like the amount of effort I put into trying to control something is directly correlates to how pissed off or hurt or shattered or whatever I am at it
Mhm.
not doing the thing that I told it to do, right? Like so understanding that I'm just a dude and I'm just here having this experience like you and everyone else. And I'm not the architect, right? Like this is not my show. Um, I, and it's like the opening prayer, right? Like there's the three things, the wisdom to know the difference between what we can and can't change, right? And, ultimately the things we can't change, acceptance is the key piece to having any sort of peace with that. That's what I think.
Thanks. Awesome. And you, Andrew, do you want me to repeat the question or you got a good idea what you want to say?
Yeah, yeah, no, no, no. So acceptance is key, man. Accepting who we are, who I was, um, as a drug addict, right? And fully accepting that it was tough, but it's so vital. Fully acknowledging the true facts of the situation. Um, and going forward, moving forward with that, right? And not fixating and dragging myself down on the things that might not have happened for me, right? Because I can get caught up in what coulda, shoulda, woulda, and all that really quick. And that brings me down, that gets me down in that really dark hole that I don't want to start in, So I've got to accept myself and accept also who I'm not, man. Like, um, I'm not it, right? I'm not just walking around this world having thoughts and actions and things, and I haven't been brought to these rooms just by chance. I know that for a fact. My life was spared for a reason. And so I got to accept that I'm not the one making this world go round. I used to live my life not giving a shit about anything outside of the radius of this body right here, this meat suit. Other than that, it doesn't matter, right? And even the closest ones to me, I loved them, but I was sick. I was a sick individual, wrapped up in my disease, and I'm never gonna get rid of this disease, right? I'm gonna arrest it. So what we're trying to do here is arrest it by accepting these things, right? You got to accept the everything in the package here, right? Once I was able to accept the whole package of what I was and who I'm not, man, I can move forward with this thing, right? I can start fresh. It's like a before Christ, after death kind of thing, man. Like I accepted this thing now. Like I'm finally accepted it right now. And we'll probably talk a little bit later with how we can get into layers with family members and how we either accept it in public and not or whatever. There's questions I want to ask, but like for myself, I extremely important. And Milan talks about it a lot. I think he's got it tattooed on his body somewhere. Acceptance, acceptance.
I
it's
love it.
it's so it's so important. So yeah, I had to accept who I was, who I wasn't, and then i
Mhm.
can i can meet myself in the middle now, right? And see myself for exactly what I am, and accept people for who they are offering, right? Like love, forgiveness, and grace, right? And that's what I'm trying to do. So we do in these rooms,
Yeah.
our own way, you know so yeah, Milan, you're up.
Well, for me, obviously, Andrew just kind of said it a bit that acceptance is huge to me. I was coming out of doing my step 5 with my sponsor this July, and every single one of my parts was boiling down to acceptance or not, like 100%. And I realized that behind like every single defect and shortcoming that we act out on, it is one choice,
Mhm.
acceptance or not. 45 seconds, as soon as I'm driving away from his place, my daughter calls me and says, "You know, when you thought you had a daughter who didn't have cancer? Well, you don't." And right in that moment, it was the best moment that I could have heard the worst news in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, like instantly was like, number one, like this is not about you. Like this, like don't turn this into a Milan Starcic pity party extravaganza. And like you have to. The second thought was you have to accept this to be strong for her, like whether you like it or not. And it was a week after that that I got this tattoo because I just feel that my life's purpose at this point is to learn and build acceptance inside myself. And the tattoo, I play guitar, so I lift my left arm quite regularly to as part of my music, and it's a reminder, a constant
It all the
reminder.
time.
Yeah, it's a reminder for me that to check myself. Am I
Mm-hmm.
acting with acceptance? And before the program and before steps, I just ground through life. Like I had some tremendously successful from the outward appearance points, like, but it was the opposite of acceptance. It was like, look out, fucking world, you better accept me. And it was, the good and the bad and the ugly, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter what everyone else was catching, as long as Milan was coasting with a smile on his face. And it really destroyed a lot of things in my life that could have been really, really pure, amazing times. It was a constant pattern of, and the first, like looking back, I had no self acceptance. I had no, like, I had no acceptance of things I had done. I had no forgiveness for me or for you. Like things would just grind inside me. And even when things were starting to get to a not good phase in addiction, I couldn't accept that fact. I knew the second I said the word "I'm an addict" that there would be no rewinding the tape.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be like I would be stamped that to myself and to my family. So that was like my fight against powerlessness and not accepting my addiction at all. And, since doing step work, like a big part is the acceptance of ourselves, and that can lead to then the acceptance of others. So, things have been work in progress all the time with acceptance. And it is truly actually my favorite topic right now. Like, you want to talk about acceptance, I'd talk about it all day.
I
Oh,
want to
look,
add
we
one
are.
thing. I want to add one thing to the step part of it because I didn't touch on that. But like the first three steps, except it gets us right with God or a higher power, right? The following three, 4 through 6, get us right with ourselves, right? There's your
Mm-hmm.
acceptance of yourself. 7 through 9, get us right with others. And then it kind of brings it home, right? 10, there's your daily inventory, stays keeping you right with yourself.
Yep. Yep.
11 keeps you right with God, and then 12 keeps you right with others. It's a beautiful thing. So I just wanted to touch on like the step
I,
part of that
Yeah.
specifically.
I love the way you always put that because I feel that it is such a great outline for anybody who really hasn't delved into the steps or feels confused by them. And thanks
Right. You
for
can look
repeating
at it
that.
as a overlook it and go, okay, this is what it is. It's not just this thing I'm leading into blindly. It's really there for a reason, and it really is very structured that way for a reason, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's beautiful.
It really is.
Miss Miss Brandy, would you like to shoot off a round of questions?
I do actually. I thought of one before I got in here because I was like, I'm that's a good one. Well, they're all good, really. And I do love this topic a lot. But who do I start with? Anybody?
Well, you could ask
Anybody?
Coulter, and then we kind of could
Coulter,
maybe
would you
keep
like
the
to start?
circle going in
All
that
right,
route.
that sounds
Yep.
good. Okay, Coulter. How are you working on accepting your past mistakes?
Well, I mean, God, I'm in the middle of that wreckage right now. and it's a lot. It's
Mm.
overwhelming sometimes, right? Like I got out of prison and I'm still on parole, so I have to deal with that on a regular basis. I have to, like, I want to do things, right? Like I want to travel, like I want to go do, I have all these things I want to do and I cannot, like, because of the choices I made, right? Um, I have a mess with an ex-wife and like a legal situation there that I have to deal with, like that's very messy and complicated. I have I still have storage units full of stuff that I haven't figured out to deal with, right? Like there's just it's a math. So like for me, the biggest thing is not to let myself, because like it's really easy to feel like there's so much like going on that is not the way I want it, to
Mm.
just get overwhelmed and just not try at anything, right? Like that's the biggest challenge I face. So like I think accepting, that I am where I am and I can handle what I can handle, and not to just let it all cave in to the point that, you know, I make a really bad choice, right? So I don't know if that really answers your question, but yeah, like it's definitely one of my biggest struggles right now. What about Andrew?
Yeah.
It sounds like it's an ongoing process for you, Coulter, for sure. Yeah. And I think it's for all of us, right? In our
Mm.
own ways. Um, ask me the question specifically, Brandy, because I've got to, I just want to know exactly what you said
Yeah, yeah,
again.
you're good. You're good. How are you working on accepting your past mistakes?
Okay, that's exactly what I thought you said. So,
Yeah,
on my
yeah.
past mistakes, so I've realized and I've learned through reading this literature that, you know, I'm not responsible for my disease, right? But I am responsible for my recovery, right? My addiction. I wasn't responsible for it, and I was, but it's telling me that I didn't know what I was doing at that point.
Mm.
I didn't know that this was a disease. I didn't know what was going on with me, and it's telling me that I made these decisions, and I wasn't me, right? I wasn't who I was, right? I was wrapped up in that cloud, in the grip, right? And so now, so today, it's so empowering to be able to be able to like accept what I've went through. Like it took me a long
Mm.
time to actually be grateful for everything that I went through to get to this point. But now that I'm to this point, guys, I'm so grateful for my mistakes. And the way it bleeds into my life now is obviously I spread this shit out in these meetings, right? I just throw it out there. I talk about my past. I've turned my mess into a message. I try to, right? And it's about service work. It's about taking that pain and letting it help somebody else.
Mhm.
I have people at my work, man. Y'all know I'm spread love like crazy. Like unconditional brotherly love is my thing, and humility. Like I hang my hat on those things. And I'm able to throw that stuff out there because, because of the work that I've done. It's just an amazing thing to be able to go into a workplace where nobody is in the fellowship,
Mm.
and it's uncomfortable. I started telling people I love them around there, right? Like I'm talking people that I don't hang out with or don't talk to outside of the workplace, but I started developing relationships with people in my workplace, and I developed good friendships with some of them. Even the people that I haven't developed good friendships with, I've said the word, those words, I love you, like on the way in and out, and not in like a weird way, just like I love you,
Yeah.
how, drive safe. Where I've got people that doing it now all around my workplace. Like they all are just, they say it and it's not uncomfortable for them to say. I got men that were uncomfortable at first to say those words to another man, and they're saying it in a spiritual way, not like in a, you know what I mean, love you, bro, like no, it's like, love you, man, drive safe, like I'll see you tomorrow. And it's a different mindset, man. It's a different mindset, knowing that like this is the disease that has us convinced we don't have it, so we're not dumb.
Mhm.
we're not stupid people. Like, now that we've figured, I'm so grateful, and I'm more and more grateful every day that to know that I'm an addict, because like there's so many people that never realize what the hell's wrong with them, and they work their whole
Right?
life to know what's. I
Yeah.
know what's wrong with me, and so I can work on this shit. I can get on a podcast like this. I can show people at work, if I've got people that a kid, he's got diabetes, 19 years old, man, and I've got him hooked up with my aunt, and that's outside the fellas. That's outside in a service, right? And then he's like, man, I checked out your podcast and I saw the first one you went, and he was like crying. The kid's 18, but we're struggling hard, right? And he's like, you're spreading hope, and you're saving people, you're helping people, and I don't even like get that. I don't feel the accolades. It's just what I'm doing, man. It's what drives me,
I
right?
love
It's
that.
what keeps me going. So I'm motivated by my past. My past does not imprison me anymore, right? It's my teacher. I let it
Mm,
teach me today. So that's my answer for that. Mr. Milan, on to
I
you,
like
sir.
that. I like that.
Okay, I'll take a refresher on the question. I was getting right into what Andrew was saying.
Right?
It's
I was
okay.
getting ready to go for
It was
hours.
good.
I
It
was
was
getting ready to
Yep,
go on a tantrum, guys. So better
right.
yep.
stop me.
That's all good though. Okay, how are you working on accepting your past mistakes?
Okay, so I had a pretty long sordid past of mistakes, and I had a real issue with shame and guilt
Mm,
when I came into the program. Um, and a lot of it, a lot of it, I actually didn't even see as my fault until I got into the steps. So, first thing I'm doing is I'm not using anymore. Like, one of the things about someone who's new out there is like in step 4, you do a fearless moral inventory. So, like, I always turn that around and say it's the moral inventory that makes me fear less. And you tell somebody that, which is step 5. But step 6 is kind of what I would call the hope step, or like the like, hey, let's envision what life can be like without all these defects and shortcomings. And so from really doing like, I mean, I think it was 120 pages I wrote out for my
mm,
step 4, and I think my step 6 was like, oh, like 60 something. And but one of the things about it was looking at, I'm taking my old dishonesty and really fighting to be honest. I'm taking my anger and I'm trying to find some serenity. I'm taking my guilt and shame and I'm trying to be proud of who I can be right now. And so like I'm really trying to use the steps to change that. And part of the only way that my own self acceptance from my past can happen was with my amends.
mm,
And, talk is cheap for me
mm.
after so many years of shit. Like saying an amends to someone, honestly, it's just not like living the amends, like it's really, really trying to be a different person on a day-to-day basis. And like that's highly fucking uncomfortable a lot of
Mm.
days because it's met with a whole lot of failure to make a few advances in character. And it was one of the hardest things was to accept the timeline of recovery
Mm.
versus my like I could read about this, I could be really evolved, I can be like I can have this perfect
Yeah.
picture of acceptance, and then I'm like, the fuck, man, you're falling behind here in your recovery. And it just it would crush me earlier on. It would crush me earlier on to fall backwards, but now I'm seeing, there's a lot of cues on days where I'm doing good or days I'm not doing good, and those cues can be fatigue, shitty food, too much caffeine, just not maybe running a good amount of enough time on exercise, my program, you know, maybe being distracted during a meeting and just not getting that emotional sobriety for the rest of the day from leaving that. But
Yeah.
it's you know, for me, it's I'm never going to like what I did in the past. And I would not trade anything. Like, I would not undo everything to not know about the program now, you know? But um, I definitely, it's more like glimmering moments of self loathing where
Mm.
sometimes, like, I'll just remember something I did that was so fundamentally shitty that you can't erase with all the amends in the world in someone else's innocence, you know? And that'll like, oh, like it'll just make me want to cry sometimes. But you know, all I can keep doing is pushing forward, like, you know, because you just can't change the past. But you know, like Andrew would say, your future's spotless.
Yeah. I love it. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yep.
And you?
And me. So, this one, like I made a lot of mistakes before I came in these rooms, and it's hard to try to think that I could come back from them. But like with my husband in particular, he's a big part of my story, so I bring him up a lot. But with him, like I ruined the word sorry. He used to say to me, "Throw a plate on the ground. Now say you're sorry. The plate's still broken." And like I didn't ever think that I was going to get any trust back from him, especially when I was in treatment. I had to like spill it all out. Um, at all. And so I still did a written, like a verbal amends, but I knew from there that it needs to be a living amends. And the way I can accept my mistakes in the past is to just do things differently. Because, like you said, I can't. It won't go away. I can't erase it. I can't, and I don't even know. I mean, of course, I'd like to erase some of it, but like it does make me who I am today. I don't think I would have had that gift of desperation if I hadn't made so many mistakes. And it made me who I am. I'm a much stronger person, mentally when it comes to stuff, to accept stuff because of what I've put myself through. I don't want to say what I've gone through because I put myself through it really. And but doing things differently is the way I can accept how I was because it still hurts my heart. It hurts my heart to think about all the times of lying and stealing and put my kids through that. It just I was not me. I was a sick person in that time. That's another way I learned to accept it. That wasn't me. That was my disease in full force. I mean, I own it. I own it. Don't get me wrong. I can't be like, it wasn't me, but I wasn't necessarily driving. And so today I am. And so I strive just to do things in a positive way that not only for myself but for my family. I don't. I do like a good attaboy. Don't get me wrong, but I don't have to be like, oh, I did this today. Hey, I didn't use drugs today. I didn't lie today. I do to myself. I say that, but I don't. They have to see it. It's a big thing, and that's where it comes from because I can't undo things that I did for sure. And so I think a part of accepting the mistakes is like accepting my disease and moving forward and not using and not reverting back to the behavior of how I was when I was using, which was not great, not even for myself. I remember when I did my amends, and I tell you, the one that got me the hardest was the amends to myself, because I'm so focused on making sure like everybody else, like all the wreckage I did in everyone else's life and stuff, tend to forget about what I personally did to me, and that was a hard one, but it was very freeing because I could let go of those feelings of guilt and shame. Not saying they don't pop in and out sometimes, but I know how to handle them today. But doing that, not only doing amends with my family and people close to me, but to myself, and that's just like another layer of accepting the stupid shit I did because it's the fuel that gets me going forward. And so it's a great topic. I like that you picked it.
Hmm.
Oh, we'll have a series on acceptance.
Yeah, yeah,
You,
I like it.
you know, I really think you either treat it as a disease or not. You
Yeah,
can't like sometimes diseaseify it and other
yeah,
times be like, oh no, that was me. Like, you know, the sick addict Milan is not the person who you have sitting here right
yep,
now. And I'm not saying that absolves me of all
yeah,
the things I've done, but it does allow me to be working with a fresh palette of who I'm going to be.
yeah. It's helped me when I did my steps, and even with my sponsees. Um, I think that all three of them are on four right now. But tell them like when you write this stuff down, like it's like pulling a band-aid off in a sense, but you're not writing about who you are today. You're writing
Mm.
about who you were when you were sick, or when you were in active addiction. And so remember that that's not who you are today, but it's part of you that you need to release.
Yeah, you're
You
putting it
should
on
release.
paper. You're facing it up to your God. I mean, to your
Yeah,
God of your understanding. You're allowing it
yeah,
to be seen, right?
yeah.
It's a
The more thorough someone is, the more thorough it's going to help them.
through the
Like,
Yeah.
pen we see the light. That's what my
Yes.
sponsor says all the time.
Yes.
Sean, love you.
I love book work. I love it. You want me to write something? Okay, I'll write this.
Yep.
Colter, you got around to questions you want to ask Andrew first?
Sure, man. I guess the one that I get curious about is there what main thing or things do you foresee as being your biggest struggle where you are today to accept? And like, what is your plan, or like, how do you foresee that going where you are now?
That's a great question, Coulter. As it sits today, um, God, I have, and I'll keep this broad, but I gotta accept people where they're at.
Mm.
Um, I love that. Brandy, you
Yeah,
know what I'm
I
talking
know,
about.
I know,
Good
yeah.
God, oh fucking mighty, good
I
God
know.
Almighty.
Yep.
I love it. I gotta accept people where they're at and continue working my program, right? And that does not mean it doesn't affect me.
Mm.
Because it affects me. But shit, I'm really struggling with it right now, Coulter. There's a couple things that are going on in my life specifically that I have to wear out my new support network, Brandy being one of them. Because it's just some of the shit that comes across our table when we get into recovery is fucking crazy. And I don't know if it was maybe always coming across my table when I was in active addiction, but I was just out there, so I never really took them in as these real problems. But there's real problems going on, and it can be very, very detrimental to my recovery, because anybody can say anything they want. And in the court of public opinion, depending on who you are, if maybe if I was somebody coming brand new in here, could be destroyed by something that some of the things that people say about other people. We really have to watch how we communicate and we talk and we perceive this thing, as it relates to recovery and in the rooms. This group setting, the meetings are the best vehicle to get this thing out there, right? And part of it is unconditional love, and I spread that shit like a wildfire, man, because I was given it. I didn't have it when I got here. And I'm reminded every day that some of us are sicker than others. um and I have to be okay with that, because as long as I'm doing the right thing for the right reasons, and I, like, what am I stressed out about it for, right? It's going to all work itself out in the end. I have to lean into that. I have to lean into my decisions today, that because I'm coming up on 3 years clean. I have to lean into, like, I'm doing the right shit and it's going to work out. And even if it doesn't, there's a reason why. There's a reason why that it might not have worked out, right? Like the God of my understanding had a different plan for me in that situation. But there's some things that I can't play any part of, and I wish I could have control over, and I can't even touch certain situations. And it's tough. It's really tough to accept the fact that I can't go in there and just go, really? Right. But that's why it's so important to have this new support network around me. I have so many people that I can call and that call me and go, hey, this is what's going on. And it's because I do the same for them. Right. I have put stock in people and they have put stock in me. And it's part of what keeps me clean. Right. These people around me in my home group and the people I've surrounded myself, every one of you three are part of my network and part of I call them my roommates in my house. I can put anybody in my house that I want. I built this big house. I can make it look what I want on this nice foundation of love. I get to put my roommates in this house that I want. Right. And you guys are part of that crew. Right. And so I have to I have to stay tapped into those people, right? I have to go knock on my roommate's door and be like, bro, talk to me for a minute. Colter, I need to sit down and chat with you, man. Like, can, am I crazy? Right. And then usually, I might get a couple, and then usually a couple other people might know at that point, and it gets me back right. Right. It gets me knowing, hey, nothing's changed since yesterday. You didn't, this is what's going on. It's just there's some people are sicker than others, right? And some people want to play on feelings and heartstrings and things. And again, there's a whole mental aspect to this disease and an outside mental, as it outside mental or is it from the disease mental, right? So there's a and I got to tread lightly. And I love everybody. Like I said, Milan, I do not like everybody, but I love everybody, man, because we help each other recover in one way or another. You are helping me out. Even if I hate everything about you, I don't hate you. I love you. Because a lot of times it's shit that is coming out of me in points that I see that I don't like, right? And not every time, but I've got to be able to recognize that, and I can't do that on drugs, right? Got to stay off drugs, got to stay part of that no matter what club, and I got to stay tapped into my spiritual principles, man. Love, hope, honesty, acceptance. I'll get serenity from that, right? So, passing, tag Milan.
Can you repeat the question, Coulter? I just like to get it. I like to get it fresh.
Yeah, man. So basically, the question was, what like major challenges do you foresee that you would struggle with accepting or having acceptance for at the point you're at now in recovery? That could be, and do you have like a plan or a method to work through that? Or what do you think that's
So
going to look like?
there's a bunch of things like, it's hard. I don't know when to talk about a problem and when it becomes a pity party, right? Like, so I'm going to mention a few problems here that are imminent, but I want to say that nobody's invited to this pity party, and I'm not going to be there if you show up. Okay, but there are things like, um, my mom has terminal cancer. My stepdad and my father-in-law who live here have both had strokes and are fading. We're dealing with the health situation with my daughter. And I may, in the midst of all this, where everybody lives, lose my house in the next 6 months. It's a real crazy close reality that's imminent and potential. Um, all these things I cannot change right now. Like, and if it really wasn't for going to treatment and learning the steps, before that, I was already mourning all three parents gone. I was already like, I was in a fucking 2.5 year pity party about it. It was probably my easiest excuse to go use on when I started to feel those anticipatory feelings of loss. Um, there's something now where it's just like, I know I don't like it, but I've already wasted so many fucking moments being invisible and high that I could have been cherishing their life while they're still here, that I'm really just trying to like walk with my parents like 2 to 3 times a day right now, laugh with them. Went grocery shopping with them today. It's like I'm trying to make the most of those moments. And I feel that when the loss does happen now, like I'm not gonna like it. I really fucking love these people, but I have an acceptance for it already in a way that I never had for anything like this in my life before this program. Um, Using just isn't my solution anymore. Like it's not in the solution bank. I I know for me that this is a daily life or death choice, and I just can't even put that on the shelf of options. Like it's just not.
Mm.
It would not make any of those situations better. Oh, great, I'm homeless with my family. Why don't I go get high so we have no
Yeah.
food too? Like,
Oh, I don't have any money. Got to go find money first,
yeah,
right? Like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, but I just so the stuff that I'm struggling the most really with acceptance on right now is day-to-day reactions. There's so many mannerisms that I want to be better at socially. Like I want to accept other people's ideas easier when I've already created an expectation of how I want something to happen. And instead of being a jerk now, I feel like I'm getting better at stepping away, considering things, coming back and saying something. Um and that's, like that's not perfect, but man, compared to what it was, it's so much better. Like it's so much better. And one of the things that we really looked at was kind of what is your prelapse emotions in treatment. And there's a lot of emotions that I was like making way bigger as my, excuses to go use. So I'm trying to just manage how I'm falsely amplifying things.
Mm.
And one of the ways with that is to not give it power and by deflating it with some acceptance. And like I literally have this written so that I read it. Like somebody over there, I don't give a fuck if it's upside down for them, this tattoo,
Yeah.
because it's like I'm the one who needs it. And if I'm in a state of acceptance, you're going to get a better word out of my mouth anyway than an upside down one on my arm. But
I
yeah,
love it.
so I hope that answers your question. Uh,
That was
Brandy?
good.
Um, I think I remember what the
Not a
question was.
test.
I, I often have
Do
different
you want me to
responses too.
rephrase it or restate it?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I can say it.
Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, no, basically it was just what do you foresee as being the biggest potential struggles with acceptance in where you are right now? And, kind of like what you think that would look like and how you think you're going to deal with it.
So I feel that in like a couple ways. Like when it's like I accept that I'm an addict. Like I have a lot of acceptance, but there's things that like trickle out from it that I have a hard time with. But I think when it comes to definitely recovery, that part to it, I don't ever want to think that I got this. Like I can still be like I accept that I'm an addict, so I don't really need to do all the stuff I'm doing. I'd worry about that, and I think that's why I make myself so accountable. I'm like I'm here for the group, but I'm here because I need to be here. And when I say I'm going to be here, because if I ever get too comfortable, but I broke my leg years ago, and I have a hard time with accepting the way it is, and it's a stupid accident that changed my life forever. I've had like 9 surgeries. Long story short, my pole wouldn't close on my leg, so they took a quad muscle and they put it on top of my leg, and to close it up. And so I got arthritis and my what is it? My deteriorating tendons. I mean, it's just my leg's fucked, and I have a hard time moving forward. Like I used to be able to make everything my leg's fault. Like if I didn't get dinner done in time, it's my leg's fault. If like I couldn't, it's my leg's fault. And but this program is really, got really far on it. But it's something that like I don't always talk about because I haven't fully accepted. that it's only going to get worse. You know, like I'm 45 years old and I'm on disability. Like that's hard because I was like a go-getter. I always worked on my feet, and then all of a sudden, like my mom calls it God's 2x4. I was just doing life too fast, and I think a lot of things I could have changed it. So like I hold a lot of guilt from it. I was in full active addiction when all the infections were going on and almost died. Thank God I didn't die. I mean, but so I have a really hard time with accepting that kind of stuff. And I feel like it could, I used to be a professional pity party planner. Like, oh man, tell you what, like, and so yeah, I think that's why I have a hard time speaking on it because I don't like people feeling bad for
You're the
me.
J-Lo pity parties.
Straight up, straight up. And I don't like people to feel bad, which is the opposite. And
Yeah.
and so, but again, like even though maybe I've gotten past the pity party, but then I need to make sure I talk about it. I got to talk about how I feel about it, and it's a struggle, big time. And so, you know, I'll probably always work on that. I'll probably always work on that, and also, um, I have a hard time accepting which does affect my recovery in one way or the other, but accepting family members that have accepted their disease and expects us all around them to accept it also. That really affects my recovery. Not in a way I'm going to go use, but it really just I don't practice good thoughts and stuff when it comes to that. I kind of lose the tools. I lose the tools when I go into those subjects of you know the pain that I deal with and like a future trip on it really big time. Um, like I can accept I'm an addict all day, but I can't accept that I have you know I have to have surgery in the future because of my ankle, and I'm only not having it right now because I'm super stubborn and I don't want to have surgeries if I don't have to. So I have to for me to get past challenges and not let them manifest to be something bigger. I need to talk about it. Like even just times like this, I need to talk about what I struggle with because you know I can, like I said, say all day I accept being an addict, but I'm still human, and there's things that will get in the way if I allow them to, and uh, and those ones are, I mean, even though I don't like people feeling bad for me, I could easily revert back to the pittiness. I mean, I grew up like I had epilepsy when I was younger. Like I could pull every card out, you guys. I can make anybody feel bad for me, you know, and today it's like I don't want that. I don't want to feel like that. But I know I have to be open because if I keep it in, it may not be a pity party, but it will fester, manifest, and turn into something that will really, really affect my recovery. And so that's what I think I
I
got
love
to say.
that. I love that. Brandy, I love how you when you talk about those deep things and those tough stuff you went through and that and the shitty things that you did, you have this brightness on your face, right? Like
Mm,
it just shows that it's about showing me you're in recovery without just telling me you're in recovery, right? Like you just see it. You see it on your face when you talk about it and how you've been relieved of that pain and pressure as you've worked on yourself,
yeah.
obviously,
Well,
right? It's just
100%
really
too.
great to see.
I was just saying in
Yeah.
the meeting, I don't know if you were in there, but the meeting this morning, like talking about like the pink cloud. Like I always hated the pink
I
cloud
was
phrase
there.
because I'm a pink cloud person. Like that's who I am. So maybe I had like a fluorescent pink cloud for a little bit. Like maybe it was a little amplified, but like that's just how I
In
am. And
Brandyland.
yeah, Brandyland, Brandyland all the way. and and so I'm so grateful, you know, even
Yeah.
for the shit, the
Yeah.
hard times I don't talk about. I'm super grateful
Yeah.
for my recovery.
And you can tell. And you can tell.
I
All
love
right,
that.
cool. I'm gonna start my question and it's gonna
Well,
come
just
to
wait.
you.
Coulter's got to answer his question.
Oh, I
Oh,
forgot. Man, my
Yep.
bad, Colter. You get to answer your own question, young man. I didn't know if
Just
that how
just
that worked.
just Andrew things, boys and girls. No big deal.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No.
No, man. I, dude, so I don't know. I think the obvious one, right? Like, is like if my kid dies, if my whoever dies. And I mean, that is what it is. And I think the answer is fairly universal. Like, we don't want that. Um,
Yeah.
you know, I have three kids and I really just don't even want to go there mentally, which is why I asked the question because I thought about what do I
mm,
absolutely not want to where do I not want to go? That's it right there.
Proud of you for
Um,
asking it, man. Shit.
but like Milan, you know, I'm currently trying to, you know, help take care of my dad. He's fighting cancer and, you know, he's pretty old and like even if we get through this, you know what I mean? Like we're kind of getting there. And I hope you can hear me. Probably not. But it's something, and I have this really fucked up thing that I do, and I don't, it's always been a thing for a long time where like a reality of that magnitude doesn't ever like impact me the way it should until after the fact.
Mm.
Like I have a way of somehow shutting these realities out until they are crushing in upon me. You know what I mean? So um maybe that's why I asked the question, because I know I need to go here. But I think, that's for me why like I need to, embrace like doing this work and not waiting and getting to a point where I can handle that because you know like Milan said, like you you want to talk about how that situation is going to get 100 times worse, like when I'm the one who's fiscally and like completely like the only one left that can fucking make decisions. Like if I'm high, like I'm not going to be here making decisions. That's a fact. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I can promise you that's not what I'll be doing.
Mm.
So, you know, yeah, like I said, I think having the program, the network, like a lot of the things we've touched on, like that's why I'm trying to build those things as much as I can every day, because these things are coming. Like you cannot beat the clock, right? Like no matter what. And and then I guess like the other big one, I guess for me that I like I think Milan touched on it too. You said something about your daily reactions, and back to like the kids and like the people that are closest to me. This is where I struggle the most. Like a woman that I'm, you know, engaging with on like that level, or my kids are the two big ones. And especially like my oldest son, like I noticed it twice today. Like my immediate reactions and some of the shit that I flies out of my mouth is just shitty. It's just it's me, you know, trying to back to the relinquish of control. I'm trying to like make him not be the way that I was so that he doesn't have to pay the price that I did, but I can't fucking do that. Right. And that is so hard to accept for me. Like, I don't know if it's a thing that happened between me and my father. I don't know where the dynamic is so firmly rooted within me, but I know that that is the thing that I need to work on very hard moving forward, because like the shit I do and say in those quick little moments, those are the like, like if I look back to, all of my past interactions, the shit that really fucked me up and affects me the most to this day are like little fucking things that like comments and stuff, right? Like little things that probably meant nothing to the person that said it, right? But like having that awareness for the people I love, I think is something that's so important, so critical. And to me anyway, like I don't want to be the one like creating those scars anymore, right? So I think that's all I have to say about that.
Mm.
That was beautiful, Colter.
Mm-hmm.
That was great, man.
Loved it.
That was great. All right, man. Well, I'm gonna ask you, Milan. This is kind of a multi-layered question, but it's all one question. You'll get it.
Okay.
So this is like acceptance as it relates to your recovery, right? You being an addict. What is the best way to own it, right? Like really own it. Do you speak openly to people who are non-addicts? Do you more or less keep it to yourself, or do you wear it on your sleeve? Do you ever get to the point where you want to proudly and loudly proclaim your recovery to the world?
I like this
Well,
question. This is a good
okay,
question.
so
Mm-hmm.
Love you, mama.
I was always embarrassed about my addiction and my usage. I'm sure I was good at hiding it by looking at old pictures of how fucked up I looked.
Mm.
But, but I'm really proud of my recovery. I feel that just doing this podcast and actively broadcasting my full name on it all. There's people that I haven't told in my life that have told other people that I'm doing this that must have just seen it from a Google search already. So as far as as far as I'm concerned right now, as at right now, I'm pretty much yelling it from a mountaintop. That mountaintop is the internet. And, anybody who's looking up my name is going to see this right now first, probably. Um, but, I haven't been silent about it since I got out. Like even on my, even on my Facebook page, I put my 6 months, my 9 months,
Mm.
my 1 year, and I said that, I've been enjoying this life of sobriety. I didn't say, hey, I went to treatment, I almost fucking died in the hospital. That wasn't what I said. Like that wasn't the way I said it because the bad part of my story isn't my story now. Like I'm like people who knew me, which, were some real stragglers at some points. They I don't even look like old pictures of me right now. Like, so I was like, hey, I'm sober now. I've been, for this many months. I can't believe how life can be different, being sober and how much, serenity and happiness I can have. And if anybody's out there struggling and wanting to learn about something different, give me a call, you know? And so I want to use it to help other people. Um, I've told two clients this year directly, and the very first client I brought it up, she's like, "Oh shit, I go to the AA meeting over there." She's like, she was in AA herself. And then the second one I told, he was just like, "Oh yeah, I've had family members, man. Cool, awesome, great to see you taking care of yourself. You obviously are because you're on top of your shit that you're dealing with me for, you know." But
Cool.
now it's pretty much going to be one of my life purposes, so if my life thing is getting acceptance, I get acceptance for who I am, what I've done, and who you are. And if you want some help, let's start it out. But that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Brandy,
Randy?
you want me to ask you? You want me to ask you kind of the again?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so acceptance as it relates to your recovery and you being an addict, right? What's the best way to really own it, to actually really own it? Do you speak about it openly to people who are not addicts? Do you more or less keep it to yourself or do you wear it on your sleeve? Do you ever get to the point where you want to proudly and loudly proclaim your recovery to the world?
I do like this one a lot. Man, I to this day, I mean, I'm super proud. I promoted my drug use, legal drug use like no other, and so when I like, here I am, I'm out of treatment, and I'm like clean. Like I can't believe I'm clean. I still to this day, I'm like I can't believe that I don't do anything. And so with that excitement, like I want to tell the world. I want to just like literally shout it like, "Hi, my name's Brandi. I'm an addict." I've had to stop from saying that, going to like church and like say your name, and I'm
Did I
like,
say I
okay,
was an
wait,
addict?
yeah, and there's and I would say like there's some places I don't, but I do. I don't necessarily bring it up unless it's brought up, but I wear NA sweatshirts. I have an NA tattoo. Like I
You make NA sweatshirts.
I make NA sweatshirts. I do.
I
I
want one with
do.
the zipper on the front.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Hey, there we go. There we go. And
It's a
I
parking lot discussion.
right. But I'm so proud of my recovery. But I know the best way to promote it isn't the sweatshirts and stuff like that. It's telling my story. Like and especially
Facts.
anyone that knew me, like nobody. The fact that I'm clean today, and not that I'm clean that I want to be clean. Like I'm not like, oh, I'm doing this again. There's days that are like that. The fact that I want to be clean, that's the best way to promote recovery and acceptance of where I'm at. Like I got hard days like everyone else, but my life is so much better now that
And
I don't
nobody's
use
keeping you
drugs.
here. Nobody's
Woo!
keeping you
Yeah,
here.
no one's keeping
Come on,
exactly.
man.
No one's keeping me here. I mean, my family probably rather I be downstairs right now, but it's like it's to promote it in that way. I did used to have a sticker on my car until somebody was saying, because I'm not perfect. Okay, they're
You
like,
drive
you
like an
can't,
ass.
yeah, you can't drive like an ass. And you got that on there.
Hmm.
And so when I got my new car, I did put a sticker on there. Not that I don't want to represent, but I live around some like uptight and inconsiderate people. So I
Put
actually
it on the
put one of
car, just hidden, like hide
well,
it somewhere.
I put one of those lights on there, so when you hit the button, it flips them off. So I
Oh,
did
there
that.
you went the opposite way with it. You went the opposite way with it. You're
Yeah,
all in.
so I'm like, fuck
Love and
Acceptance.
that. Yeah.
acceptance.
Acceptance.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
on.
So, and it's, and I've only had to use it once, so which is good. But but with that, like, I don't want to like really make the program look bad by flipping people off while I got an NA sticker or
You
something
like
on
flipping on
there.
this little innate like tattoo on the
Yeah,
end of the
yeah.
finger. Come on.
Thank God I didn't put it on my middle finger. I didn't think about that.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
but just with this the sharing my
That's cool.
story. Like I've
That's
never been
cool.
a good salesman. I can just tell you what I got, what I
Yeah,
got from something, and
that's true.
so that's how I definitely share that.
I love that. I love that.
Love you, Brandy.
Coulter,
Love you too.
I'm gonna ask you the question. You ready? So
Yep.
acceptance as it relates to your recovery and you being an addict, right? What's the best way to own it, man? Really, really own it. Do you speak about it openly to people who are non-addicts? Do you more or less keep it to yourself or wear it on your sleeve? Do you ever get to a point in your life where you want to proudly and loudly proclaim your recovery to the world?
Wow. So, I don't know if it feels this way to the rest of you. For me, this question is actually kind of a bomb, and it has a lot of strings attached to it beyond
Mm.
acceptance. Like, this because and it's had an evolution throughout the years of my recovery and lack of recovery. But like ego is a big part of that. Shame, judgment, like because and I think for me it might be more complicated than for a lot of people because like my addiction took me to other because really like part of the nature of this question is like do you feel shame for the fact that you're an addict, right? Well, my addiction took me to like prison, right? Like so like that also comes attached with it. Like I'm a felon, like I've been to prison. Those are also big stigmas, like beyond addiction, you know, that and like I said, it's changed. Like before I went to prison, I was, it was almost like a dick measuring ego thing that I had to check myself on sometimes, right? Like because like I sold drugs and like you in early recovery back when I was young, especially like it's an important thing to keep in mind. Like you know, if you're in recovery, like we're not trying to like who was a more hardcore fucking addict, like who
Mm.
you know what I mean. And I remember struggling with that, kind of like bro, come on, dog, like that's your thing, like come on, man, like you know what I mean? And kind of having that ego about like because of the shit that I did and that I went through, like I was somehow like more fucking hardcore than you or whatever the fuck, right? Like, and that's a thing that I see a lot of people get into that, right? Like in recovery, like especially early recovery, right? And I've been guilty of it myself. And and I think, you know, coming out of prison was a huge fucking like it was a kick in the nuts in a lot of ways. Like, and maybe it's partially about my age, because I'm not young anymore like I was the first time I got clean
Mm.
for 10 years when I did all this, that I'm referring to before. But now I'm like a 40-year-old man, right? And it's not fucking funny anymore, right? Like it's not, um, and coming out of prison being like an ex-convict, like it's not well received on a level that I didn't understand before doing that, right? Like there was the way I viewed my friends from prison, and then there's the way that like the world at large views you, and you don't get to
Mm.
figure that out till you're one of them, right? And so you know, and I don't know if it's so much. I guess it really is an ego thing, I think that now I don't really struggle with being externally like at least well you would know better than I do. I don't think I do. Like I don't try to like, you know, um be a dick about it or like you're not hardcore enough to be in fucking NA or whatever, right? Like but like I do think it's hard because in the same way that I have a harder time relating to people that are not addicts. Like most of my friends and the people I talk to, and definitely like my significant others, I don't know that I can do it with a non-addict, right? Like they just don't
Mhm.
understand. And I get into that same thing with like, incarceration and like, having been to prison, like that comes with a lot of stuff that like a lot of people that we talk to, like you like don't understand, right? And trying to accept, like we were saying, like accept people where they're at. I currently struggle with that sometimes, right? Like where like when I talk about things, like I can just see like normal people don't get it. Like people that haven't been through that don't understand, right? And just being okay with that, right? Like and that's like you said, like it's okay. Like I guess not everybody has to see it the way I do, understand it the way I do, and we can still come together on, being an addict, right? So I think for me, separating kind of the stigmas is going to be like something that's critical for me moving forward. Um, as far as like NA sweatshirts and shit, like I'm not really opposed to it. Like if you send me one, I'll probably wear it. Like I don't know that I'd like go buy one
In a
just
meeting at his
because
house.
you know
In
what
a
I'm
meeting at
saying.
his house.
I'm pretty
He likes
enigmatic on
black.
social media.
Under the
You know what I mean?
covers.
I'm
Black
pretty
on black.
enigmatic on the internet in general, bro. Like I'll throw up pictures of my kids and stuff, but I don't know. I guess I'm just not like a loud and proud person about much of anything on social media. So I don't know, man. Does that answer the question?
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah, it
Yeah, that
does.
was
Hell
awesome.
yeah. That was. And so my answer, man, it's I got the that question or some of that question from my mother. So my mother, shout out to mom on that
Love
one.
that.
I asked her
Love you,
opinion on a
Mom.
couple of,
Right.
so it made me think on something. You talked about the pride and ego, man. The ego. It's the ego and the pride that Edge has got out, right? And when I think about like wearing it on my sleeve and being out there and out and loudly proclaiming it, where it really gets me nervous is like in my workplace,
Mm.
you know. And it's kind of a crazy story, man. Like when I got out of rehab and I started getting my shit together, I had to change up everything. So I was in sales where I would run around and drive around everybody's houses and sell whatever it was that I was into, that, selling or whatever. I had owned parts of businesses, whatever. It was just a hassle, right? So I wanted to change it up, right? Like in rehab, they ask you what could be your dream job out of here that changes it up. And I had thought about some retail environment. Well, long story short is uh, I got a job at a doctor's office, at an eye doctor's office, and I became an optician through that doctor's office, and it's just been amazing how that has worked. So, as I've made myself a new career, um, obviously this bleeds into my life, right? I make a lot of meetings, guys. Y'all see it.
Hmm.
I'm in y'all's meetings.
Yeah.
We're on our meetings. A lot of times I'm at work, right? Good thing I'm an optician, so I can get Ray-Ban Metas, so I can listen in while I'm at work. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things. Look, God, my higher power works, man. Look, he's like, you got to hear this message. Look,
Yeah.
we're gonna make you an optician, and we're gonna give you some Meta Ray-Ban so you can hear the message throughout the day. And so look, that's why I got to stay leaning into my program, right? But ego, when you talk about speaking openly to other people who are non-addicts, I only talk to people who are not addicts if they ask,
Hmm.
or if I see them in struggling, right? Or if somebody near and dear to me sees somebody struggling and they're like, hey, can you make a call for somebody? I don't just go outwardly throwing out the spider web of NA, to everybody, right? They got to ask. And so I'm still like working on that part, the whole in my workplace thing. It's really wild how this works, right? Y'all are going to laugh about this. So I was so worried about it. And obviously I go to work every day, and I talk to my coworkers, and some people know that I'm in this program, some kind of program. I'm helping out some kids. I think I mentioned it earlier. There's a young kid that actually has watched a couple of these and he's like into it. Now, I haven't been thrown on him, hey, do you need meetings? Right. But if he asks, I know where he can go. But a few months back, the guy who I pretty much learned everything from, he had mentioned something about the doctor being in a 12-step program. And then he goes, yeah, do you know all the guys, people that come in here and call him Dr. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like a weird slang name for his real name. And I'm like, yeah, I've noticed. And they're all a little quirky. The people are like coming and see Dr. Blah, blah, blah. Right. And he's like, yeah, those are all his fellow in the other fellowship. He's been in the other fellowship for like 30 years.
Wow.
I
I'm
didn't
That's
sitting
even
here
know.
and I didn't know. I had no clue. He still doesn't. And I think, I remember early on when I started working for him, we would throw little lingos at each other, or I would say
yeah.
like, Deli's just for today. And he would look at me weird. And
Yeah.
I didn't know whether to like be like, but he would take it well, and he really loves me. Right. And so I'm going, okay, this is all right. This is all right. He knows I just have a good message. And then when I realized that he's in the program and
That's
he's got a
great.
whole like 25% of our clientele is from the other like it's wild as shit. So then I've had subsequent conversations with people who sit down and they're like, yeah, Dr. blah blah, blah is great, and then we like sit down and talk about the program. Like, it's pretty freaking wild.
That is cool.
Still have never person to person talked to Doc about it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just happening as it needs to happen. I'm staying in these meetings. I'm staying of service. This podcast is going to kind of add another layer to it. I've always been pretty reserved as it comes to me being outwardly known as an addict, but like, I'm proud now, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not going to tattoo it on my forehead.
Yeah.
But I am, again, for those who are in this channel that need some kind of help, I am extremely accessible.
Yeah.
Right. And because it's my passion today, and I realized that I was giving my life back because of this program by my predecessors. I was prayed into these rooms, and so I got to give it back. It keeps me going, man. It keeps that fire going for me. So
I love that story.
Nice. That was awesome. So I saw one thing here. It's kind of it's not the dictionary definition here of acceptance, but it says acceptance involves acknowledging the unvarnished facts of ourselves and our situation, the good and not so good, without judging ourselves. Rather than this causing us to be stuck with things as they are, acceptance is the foundation for growth and change. So, negative internal thoughts and self talk plague addicts with the wreckage of our past so prevalent in early recovery. Can you explain how making amends brings self acceptance to life and how this leads to acceptance of others? Brandy?
Um, I like this because I love the amends topic a lot. When I did amends, like for example, with my kids, uh, it's for it's for the addict. It's for me, but there's a lot in my acceptance and saying it to them. Like they knew that I was sorry and that like all these feelings, and their mom's gonna try to change. Like, that's my plan. But to be able to say, what it was, not in detail with my children, of course, but to a certain extent, um, I felt like it was giving them the opportunity to hear it from me, and with that, like, be able to, because I mean, I think if I don't accept that I'm an addict, how do I go forward? It's in that acknowledgement thing. I think is a beautiful thing, but sometimes it's like I just don't want to acknowledge that right now. Like I just want to just do what I'm doing. But with amends, and when I see you say it out loud, and it's not like, because like everybody knew I was an addict, like it was the cat was out of the bag, like everybody knew, because I'm big in my church, and people helped out my husband and stuff, and so they did like a meal train, which was cool, and so to be able to like put it out there, and so then when the amends comes, it's really just like a huge process of it. Like it's no denying. I can't deny that I lied for so long, and that I wasn't being the person that I should have been, and X, Y, and Z when it comes to what I did. And I think it's a good foundation layer for moving forward. Because if I don't acknowledge the stuff that I went through, or that I put my family through, or that I put myself through, um, I just keep spinning, like I don't go anywhere. And amends was, I remember when I was doing amends, I even, my sponsor had me put on there. I was a guy, like I was 19 or something, and I backed into his car, And I was like, oh, sorry. And he never said anything, so I didn't pay for it. And I'll never see him again. But she had me write it down. And like, I was embarrassed to say it to my sponsor because what a dick I was for not doing that. But I feel like it was a big part of me, accepting who I was and what, I can't deny any of that anymore. Even if it was, embarrassing or stupid or silly or downright cold. Um, I definitely, when it comes to the amends, I think that if you're not accepting what you're writing or saying, what is it? Like, and the only amends I haven't done, is my sister's, and that's just because, it's, I don't want to text it to her. I don't know if doing it in person is the best thing to do. She's pretty sick with her disease, and one thing I've had to learn, which I haven't done yet because I haven't done the amends, was, making amends with somebody that's done you wrong. And that's a hard one. I feel like I got this one amends to a lifetime of shit, but I know I need to acknowledge what I did. I need to acknowledge what I did to her. I mean, I didn't throw her to the bus. I threw her to the bus and I drove the bus. Like it's just like, and
And then backed it up.
I did back it up,
Hold
went
on.
over it again.
Hold on. Stop it
Yeah,
here. Stop it there. Okay.
right. Whatever I could do to protect my innocence and stuff. And I feel shitty about it. And so I have to acknowledge that to her. And because it's the only way it's the only way that I feel like I move forward. Obviously I'm still moving forward without doing it, but it's on the list, but it's got to be a right time.
Sounds
I
like
don't
you're
want it to
willing
be
though.
fake.
You're
I
willing
am
though.
willing.
There
I
you
am
go. That's the
willing.
first part of that thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely willing to do it. I just don't want to blurt it out there. And maybe I'm a little bit afraid of the response because all of my responses have been very loving, and this one I don't know. And so, and my sponsor's like, you just need to like think about how it can go bad, and just don't go in it thinking it's going to go bad, but just be prepared that you may not get a response you want. And but again, like amends isn't for. I think the person getting the amends, it gets a lot from it, but it's for me. It's for me to be able to move forward and accept, acknowledge all that stuff for my recovery. Like make sure
So
my side
important.
of the street is
So
clean.
important.
And so I love that the recipient gets something from it because they do. They really do. But it's about my recovery, and I'm making sure I'm doing the next right thing when nobody's even looking. There you go.
Nice. Colter?
Yeah, man, you want to phrase the entire question for me again so that I'm accurate with my
Sure.
response?
Negative internal thoughts and self talk plague addicts with the wreckage of our past so prevalent in early recovery. Can you explain how making amends brings self acceptance to life and how this leads to acceptance of others?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot.
It's a mouthful.
You know, I think the big thing, like with that, is a lot of it is the acceptance of what you did, but understanding why you did it, right? Like you need to know that so that you don't keep needing to make more amends, right? Like,
Mm.
um, and not that we ever stop fucking up necessarily, but like we can definitely, um, if we're doing this right, we can manage the amplitude of what the damage we're causing out there, right? And so you know and I think Brandy touched on it a little bit too. Like the big part about it is the self-acknowledgement and acceptance that you did what you did, and taking responsibility, right? Like I think I know for me and pretty much everyone I've ever known in active addiction, that's the one motherfucker we just don't do, right? Like everything is your fault, and all the shit just happens to me. And right, like I mean, like you're just an infinite victim of circumstance, right? Like and until you stop that, until you say, okay, maybe I'm not just like sitting here getting hit with unfair bullshit all the time, right? Like only when you accept and acknowledge that, can you get into a solution, and amends is part of that solution, right? Like Because when we're in that, when we are just tied down to that infinite, like, chain of, individual instances or whatever, that just, you know what I mean, that we have a story for, like we go nowhere, and we just keep doing damage, and it's
Yeah.
never our fault. And so admitting that, A, it is my fault, and being okay with that, coming to them, humbling yourself, saying, look, like, I can't change it. I did this. I'm sorry. And then, generally part of amends is, if there's a restitution to be made, doing so, right? Like, doing so. And again, like, is, whoever you're dealing with going to live with the $500 or whatever it is you're giving to them back or whatever, they'll be fine either way, right? But like, it's about, like Brandy said, cleaning my side of the street, right? Like I don't have to fucking, like, when that thought occurs to me, like, feel a fucking wave of shame,
Hmm.
that, like, you know what I mean, that now have to, live with for the rest of that day, right? Like those, like, it's eliminating those things, right? I think the biggest challenge, because I haven't started that part of, the steps in this particular phase of my recovery, because, I'm back in recovery again after doing this in the past. I have a lot of new ones, right? And I know from when I did it before, like, sometimes you don't get the reaction you're expecting, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And that's accepting that that's what it is, like, you have to, because, not like I said, like, the older you get, the less people are willing to, you know laugh it off, right? Like, this is, like, I have to face that, like, maybe people aren't going to be fucking cool with me after I make amends, right? And that's okay, right? Like, I tried, I did what I can do, like, you know what I mean? Like, I can kill myself over the fact that, like the homie doesn't forgive me, or I can do everything I can do and put the ball in their court and take it out of mine, finally, right? Um, did I miss anything?
No, I think that was great, dude.
That's good.
And as far
Yeah.
as myself, those negative internal thoughts, yes, those are tough, man. Um, and then self-acceptance, you got to have the self-acceptance and the self-love before you can accept anybody else and love anybody else.
Mm.
I say this a lot, man. We can't hate ourselves into a version of ourselves that we love. So we got to accept us and other people right where they're at, keeping our side of the street clean. Colter, yeah, man. Like, if I keep my side of the street clean, like, my trash will not blow into your yard, right? If I trim my bushes, my bushes won't grow over into your part of the property, right? And it just keeps things cordial with myself, with other people, right? If we, like every little thing that we let go unkept and let get out of control, they all play on each other. Like, as an addict, and like when we start getting hit from like three, four, five, six sides, and whether it's just a little branch in our yard and a little piece of trash from Coulter's house, like, it's like we get to the point where we want to kill somebody.
Mm.
We want to blow the fuck up, right? On the next thing that comes across our table, good luck. Good luck for that thing or person, right? And and it's all us, man. It's all us, man. It's all us. It's making that amends. When I went, so I've been through a round of the steps the first time. I'm going through, like, the graduate training now with my new my sponsor that I have now. You can only imagine, Brandon. I'm
Yeah,
going through
I bet.
graduate training now, so it's a lot different. But when my father, I talk about him a lot. He was other than myself, was the number one person making amends to, that I needed to do, and also
Hmm.
is the hardest one to do. And my first go around, as it was, I was able to make that amends without making any direct contact with him. There's a lot of different ways you can make amends. Every time I thought about him, I would just cry, man. Like, when I was really going through it, because I'm like, how am I don't ever want to talk to this man ever again. You're telling me I gotta, do this and this. And what I ended up doing with me and my therapist at the time, who was also trained in recovery as well, is he had me over a course of like 2 or 3 months just write a letter to him. And we wrote a letter, and it was kind of and it was a long letter, and we made 2 copies, one for him, my therapist, one for me, and then we burned a copy. We burned the original copy. uh and I shit you not, man, something about that is very symbolic. There's something about when you light those words on fire and it
Mm-hmm.
goes up into the air. Like, as long as, I mean, if you're willing to accept it, it took a whole load off of me with him, man. Because up until that point, because I knew he was still doing the things that we were doing in active addiction when we were running partners, I used to be very, very upset at the fact of just thinking about going out to that house and sitting in that seat and knowing he's on
Mm-hmm.
that drug and just
Yep.
going about his thing full of shit, right? And when I did that, man, it released something. It was like an elephant was off my back. Now, I didn't go calling him and go hanging out with him, right? I still have not hung out with him, right? But it allowed the lines of communication to open, right? I have a text communication with him. I've talked to him on the phone a couple times. um and it's healthy now. It's healthy. I look forward to hopefully making that grow more, but that's just kind of one instance where, I was able to make amends. And wherever you're at in your recovery is how you make that amends. You don't It's that we're not have to hit home runs here every time. It's
Mm-hmm.
about, like Milan said it the other day in the podcast we did with you, Brandy. Work it. Look, I'd rather you work the steps through in a very unorganized way, not perfect, than to like get to like step 2 trying to be a perfect ass person and then end up not making it, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather you get through it that first time, and then you have an understanding now, right? You might be able to sponsor people, two-way street there. Then you're working on these steps, and then that second round, this is where I'm really, this second time around is where I'm really learning what the fuck is going on here. Like,
Yeah.
it's not the same set of steps. So you don't just work the steps and then, okay, I'm done, I've graduated.
Yeah.
No, that's how
You're here.
beautiful these things are. That's how beautiful the steps in this process is that by the time you get through it the first time, even if you blow through it, you're a different person by the time you hit
Yeah.
that second set of steps. Because what does it say? I'm guaranteed to have a spiritual awakening as a result of working these steps. So something's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen if you work these steps, right? If you're not just
Yeah.
flapping your gum. So yeah, that's the answer to my question, I think.
It's
And
kind
what
of
do you,
like
Love
pedaling
that.
up a hill, like, on
or
a
to that question?
bicycle. The pedal keeps coming around with the steps.
Hmm?
And every time it
Yeah.
comes around, you're at
Yeah.
a different place on that hill,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
I
it's
like
like,
that.
Yeah, I like that too. Very
so
like that.
yeah, man, I definitely, I'm
I
going to steal something I heard here from a guy from Southern California at the end of March. His name was Ans. He came on the meeting twice. This guy was one of the greatest sort of, I call it like a step philosopher that I ever heard. And he was talking about, it was the JFT that day was about self acceptance and acceptance. And he rolled in and basically was like, okay, every time Brandy calls me, it's like phone rings and I haven't made my amends to Brandy, and I'm like, oh shit, liar. And every time Colter calls me and I've made my amends to Colter, I'm like, thief. And then Andrew's like, anger. And it's like, until you go and make those amends, that's all you're seeing in the repeated patterns of your life is all those things that you
Yes.
haven't made amends for. And
It's
so
crazy.
until you make those amends, you're never all right with yourself. And he said that there's like a
I got
wall.
goosebumps.
There's like a
Mm-hmm.
wall
I
above
love
there's
this.
like a wall above you that is the wall of your
Mm.
self-acceptance. And it's like when you finally get to burst through that, you get to pour love and acceptance to others upwards, because you
Wow.
can't you can't push out love or acceptance until you have some for yourself.
Mm.
I love you,
I
Ons.
like
Yes.
Man, like when that guy said that, I was like, my life will never be the same forever.
Thank you.
Right? I love
Forever.
that.
Can I shake your hand, please?
Yeah.
I asked him to be my sponsor, man. I like.
I bet.
He's like,
You wanna be my
"Who wants
roommate?
them?"
I got a spare room out here, man. Come on.
I know Andrew's got rooms in his house, free rent, man.
Golly.
But so for me, I really believe that he was right about that. And personally, I know it to be true that you know times when I'm having a really hard time with myself are times where I really got so little that I can even push out of me.
Mm,
Like when I'm really, really having a day where I'm struggling, man, I just need to like breathe and all this stuff that I can normally do is so hard to do any of it.
mm,
And the days that I'm good inside, man, I can pour like a whole shit ton of love and acceptance out there. Like,
Yeah.
it's infinite inside me. Man, okay, so we're pretty much at an hour and a half, but the thing is that this was amazing.
I want to say
I
one
was-
Yeah.
thing. Can I say
Yeah,
one thing?
yeah,
Real-
absolutely.
to
Everybody can
close it
say
out.
one thing.
Yeah. So like, and this is real quick. Look, this is my take. The more that we grow in our recovery and actually grow in our recovery, the easier it is to accept this whole thing, right? On all the levels. And as it relates to kind of like the biblical meaning of acceptance, like offering love, forgiveness, and grace, right, is it's the foundation of why NA works.
mm.
It's why this whole thing works.
Yep.
The addict comes to another addict for that unconditional acceptance, right? It might be the only time they ever get it in their life is in these rooms,
Yeah.
right? So acceptance, man, acceptance, offering the love, forgiveness, and grace. As they come in, we pick you up on our shoulders and we carry you around the room and we welcome you home. It's not welcome back, it's welcome home.
Yep.
Home is not a place, it's a feeling. Welcome home. So I'll pass the
I
ball.
love that. I
I
love
love
that.
it. Colter,
Colter?
you got
What's
something you want to
up?
say?
No, man, I think this was good, man. I got a lot out of this and hope you guys did too.
Brandy?
And
Uh, I'll end with something that these are not my words. It's from a song, but it made me think about acceptance or believing in yourself or something. What is it? You can't if you don't believe in yourself, you won't believe in someone else believing in you. And so, no matter
love
what,
that.
believe in yourself is important. Even when you don't see the light, it's believe in yourself.
Yep. Love
Hmm.
it. Love it.
Hmm.
Love you guys, man.
I love
This has
Yeah,
all
been
this is
you
great.
guys.
cool.
This was a really beautiful, respectful energy circle that we maintained
Yes.
through it all.
Yeah.
This was the first 4-person episode,
Oh,
and
there
I
you go.
just want to say that I was like, okay, let's see if we can just keep it, and it was great. The way we kind of kept that circle. I would like to say that
Yeah.
it felt like it kept the energy flow, people not stepping on each other's
Yeah.
toes. It kept it going great. I really think thanks everybody for sharing nicely.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. I
This
learned a
was
lot
great.
today. This was great.
I love the topic too.
The podcast
Oh,
Brady
this is the
bunch.
first of a series on acceptance because I didn't even ask 4 other questions. So
I got a couple more too. So
I've got a whole list of
see,
man. I didn't
there
even
we
get
go.
into mine.
This is acceptance part
Part two.
1.
yeah. Yep. I
Yeah.
love that.
Okay,
Yeah.
here we go. If you liked what you've seen, please subscribe and share this podcast and like it. We're looking for interaction with our audience, so please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you, and we're hoping to create slideshows of the Freedom Rising in your lives. Please send any photos of you flourishing in your life as a result of your recovery. Tune in next episode for more recovery fun. Bye bye, everybody. I love you. Like I love you tons. Like not just a little bit, but like this much.
Bye.